Mahoraga has returned in Jujutsu Kaisen sequel, and the battle for Earth is more insane than ever. Dabura reveals his power to be light and mass mixed together, but Yuka plans for Mahoraga to adapt in time while she hides in the shadows. Now, I don't know if I should be celebrating or be even more sad, because this could mean Megumi dying to a grade 3 curse is confirmed. Where is this deadbeat? Bro could have trained Yuka before the duel if he was alive. Now, technically speaking, 2 10 shadow users can exist at the same time, since it's not following the rule of the 6 eyes where only one can exist. Even Kamo confirmed that in the original manga. So the other assumption is that Megumi's a deadbeat and died. This would link to Yuji's depression reviewed in chapter 13 that Nobara stated. He was tired of seeing his best friends die and burying them. Megumi's death would be a huge trigger for Yuji, since he said in chapter 266 that a part of his dream is to live out the remaining days of his life with him and he would be lonely. And obviously the whole idea of Yuji wanting to die surrounded by his friends, it goes out of the window as his grandpa's curse continues. Now Gege has cooked up an absolute gourmet meal with this chapter, as Jujutsu Kaisen sequel chapter 15 starts off with Yuka leaving for Shinjuku to fight against Dabura. It's the same plane that flew past Sugiri fighting Maru. Yuka has only a few months left to live. The tumor in her brain is getting worse than ever, and she's fully aware of what this means. She's walking into this battle knowing she probably isn't coming back. So instead of fear, Yuka starts reminiscing about life and about her brother. She admits something painful. She never thought Sugiri was the best big brother, but in her next life, she hopes she can be the older sibling. She imagines holding back when they fight, letting him have snacks, helping him study, teaching him tricks, all the small ordinary things she never got to do. Now remember, this is linking to Yuji Itadori about the meaning and value of life that he taught Sukuna during his domain. So the connection is there and it's brilliant. But this is where tragedy strikes even harder. Yuka doesn't dream of power or glory. She dreams of a normal sibling relationship that she'll never have. And then her condition gets worse. Her vision goes from blurry to darkness and she's losing consciousness, not aware of the person even in front of her. Her mind starts slipping and she mistakes Mino for Sugiri, but he sees through it immediately. He realizes that Yuka's "I'm fine" act is just a strong persona that she's putting on. Her illness has progressed too far and all he can do is grab her hand and say sorry. That single moment unlocks a memory. Yuka remembers the truth that she kept buried. Sugiri was never a bad brother. He was protective, sacrificed constantly, and endured pain for her. We see him bloody, saving her from a curse that would have killed her, on top of saving her friend and never even blaming her once. He took every burden onto himself because he believed that's what an older brother does. This is where the chapter becomes absolute peak. We finally see both sides of the sibling relationship that started this story from chapter 1 in the first place. Their squabble over Rika's ring. They both hide their love behind distance and sarcasm, but deep down, they care more about each other than anyone else. This connects back to chapter 14. Sugiri fights Maru and tells the aliens to leave Earth for many reasons, but the most important is that he just wants his sister to spend her last months in peace. He believes that's what a good big brother would do and it's his duty. But whilst all of this is happening, Dabura meets an old face. It's Ui, and he's got this weird looking build, like bro's wide as hell, he's got a hunchback and all. I mean, comparing this to old Nobara, she aged like a fine wine and kept her beauty just like she always wanted, I'm just saying. Dabura then asks if he's the chosen warrior, but he is here to greet him as a representative of Earth's sorcerers. Bro glazes his sister so much, he took on Mei's hairstyle and was sent her crows to spectate everything for a purpose. Just how against Sukuna, Mei would broadcast broadcast to the world the biggest fight in history. The same thing is happening again right now. But then Ui gives Dabura a crash course on sorcery and its history. This loops us back to one of Jujutsu Kaisen's message and the tragic idea about the higher you climb, the more alone you become. Remember that Gojo explained this best with his words about flowers. To Gojo, strong people are like flowers blooming at the top of a mountain. They're beautiful, powerful, and admired from afar, but no one actually stands beside them. People don't talk to flowers, don't understand them, and don't share their burdens. They just look up, rely on them, and expect them to keep blooming forever. That's how Gojo lived, praised as a miracle, feared as a weapon, and completely isolated as a human being. Sukuna reaches the same conclusion, but from the opposite direction. When he says love is worthless, he's just being honest about what strength taught him. To Sukuna, love only exists between equals, and when you surpass everyone else, there are no equals left. Affection turns into dependency, and respect turns into fear. Everyone wants something from you, but no one can stand beside you. So Sukuna rejects love entirely, because from his perspective, it can only weaken or chain the strong. Yuji, of course, proved that wrong in the end, but now he and Dabura are walking into the same fate because of their curses, putting it to the test if love isn't worthless, right? Well, because think about it, Dabura loves his sister and she's a prisoner, and Yuji lost all the people that meant something to him. So now both are feared due to their strength, carrying the lives of every soul on their back, and the closer they get to becoming a solution, the further they drift from being understood. Now eventually, Ui reveals his grandchildren, stating that they have never seen the pinnacle of violence a human can reach. Like, bro, he's seriously saying he wants his kids to witness a nuke go off. Like, bro, did this guy not watch Oppenheimer? As a result, he wants Dabura to show them the pinnacle of a good fight. Remember that in the sequel, we learned that sorcerers of the modern age are getting weaker and weaker. So Ui feels like for this generation to be inspired, they need to see what the strongest actually means to increase the standard. However, Dabura claims he cannot show a good fight if the opponent is gonna get one shot. He's never faced a sorcerer ever in his life that can last long enough for him to go all out, which basically parallels Gojo and Sukuna once again. But this time, who is going to be the one that teaches Dabura about love? Now I still believe it will be Yuji Itadori, as in chapter 267, even Sukuna told us that in the midst of a combat, you can connect with your opponent. The phenomenon is a side effect of curse energy, as it's rooted in emotions. So much like Ninshu in Naruto, Yuji or even Yuka, they can connect with Dabura and come to an understanding. But either way, Ui backs up Yuka, stating Dabura's loneliness will be satisfied. And what's interesting is that all of them have a similar breaking point. Gojo lost Geto, Yuji lost his best friends, and Dabura lost Dura. But another thing you must notice is that the duel is occurring at the very same spot where Sukuna used Divine Flame and Gojo's purple nuking the area. The scars of the Battle of Strongest aren't healed even 70 years later. So for the current generation, Gojo's era is being viewed the same way Kinjaku saw the golden era of sorcerers in the Heian era. And this is just Gege's way of highlighting once again the cyclic nature of life, which is why there has to be someone to break that cycle in each generation. This time it being Yuka trying with Cross. And speaking of which, she has reached the destination and launches herself from the plane. Yuka cries as she remembers Sugiri, wishing to be his younger sister again when they get reincarnated. And on the way down, the aura farming is glorious. She apologizes to Dabura and finally calls out Mahoraga. Yeah, our prediction was right on the spot. This is why you need to hit the notification bell, people, because word for word, bar for bar, we got this one right. Now, during chapter 14, we learned from Sugiri that Yuka is planning to use a binding vow as a last resort to power up. That's why we see Mahoraga is powered up more than ever. She could have easily made a vow in exchange for her remaining lifespan to strengthen the beast, even reducing the number of spins Mahoraga's wheel requires to adapt to Dabura's technique. This would increase her chances of winning tenfold, and as adaptation is complete, Mahoraga can continue its analysis and develop different ways to counter, just as it did against Gojo to create the formula for the world cutting slash. This confirms that Yuka has interpreted the 10 shadows different from Megumi. As Sukuna stated, sorcerers from different era can use the same technique in an altered way. So for Yuka, she adopts the properties of the Shikigami onto herself, on top of being able to summon them. However, she still hasn't tamed Mahoraga yet. That's why its first attempt is to kill Yuka, but she escapes into the shadows. This means the ritual has been activated, binding all three of them on the battlefield. And for the first time, we see Dabura's curse technique. And my guy, he is absolutely busted. He wastes no time and tries to one-shot Mahoraga with his ability. And it's a technique that cannot be pronounced by Earthlings. It's literally called blank and light. It is an ancient technique that is passed down through generations of Diskunte that brings their slaughter instincts in the form of mass and light. This now explains how Dabura ripped off that dude's arm instantly, leaving nothing behind. Mass is energy that's being condensed. Mass is why punches hurt, why planets spend space, and why black holes are terrifying. Their mass taken to the extreme. So what the Diskunte technique does is insane. It forces light to behave as mass. So instead of light passing through you, it collapses, it gains density, and manifests as a concentrated slab of destructive force. And using this, he instantly one-shots Mahoraga, pulling these slabs of light through his body multiple times. However, guess what? The general tanks it like a beast, as we get confirmation that for the first time, his adaptation process has begun against an extraterrestrial being. It has already begun spinning once, where against Gojo, it only needed 4 to 5 for Limitless and Infinite Void. If that happens, it's a wrap. Mahoraga is pretty OP and he would win. He even forced a 15-finger Sukuna to use Fuga to one-shot it, as the king realized that's the best way to deal with his adaptation. So for the first time in history, Dabura hasn't one-shot someone in his life, and if he doesn't figure out the solution, he will lose. But I believe this fight will cause utter betrayal. You see, for the first time, Dabura will be receiving a match he will enjoy. But remember, in chapter 4, Maru calls a random ass Shikigami from the old Giza a Kalyan, and now the Lumerians are calling the cursed spirits the same, which means Mahoraga and the other Shikigami could be considered as Kalyan as well. Like in real life lore, Shikigami are kami that are prayed to in old Japan, literally following the lore Lumerians believe in the first place. So we can go two ways from here. One, the Lumerians try to stop the duel because they recognize Mahoraga as Kalyan, but that will only piss off Dabura even more, making his contempt for Lumerians grow even further, as they would attempt to stop him from enjoying the fight. Chapter 13 is a foreshadowing of this. Dabura is getting fed up with the idea of Kalyan, like when he stated, once again, it's their fault. He's actually questioning it all. After all, every major tragedy in his life traces back to them. For example, this subjective belief and morality is what sparked the first conflict that separated the tribes in their home planet. It was also the Kalyan's fault that forced Dabura to kill his best friend, and now on Earth, Cross dies indirectly because of them too. Osaki even said Dabura wouldn't understand their pain because he's an outsider, making Dabura feel more isolated than ever, which is why Uyui mentions in chapter 15 he's lonely. So all of this mirrors Geto's downfall. So if his comrades try to stop this duel with Mahoraga, it will be the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, in chapter 9, we literally are told it's the Tsukunte tradition to settle disputes by each side choosing a champion in a one-on-one duel. If the Lemurians disrespect that duty of a warrior that Dabura has, he will lose his shit, as he's been nothing but respectful to their beliefs, but they won't do the same for his. So when that happens, option 2 will be the only solution left, where our MC, Yuji Itadori, making his entrance. The fact that the Sorcerer Council consider Yuji stronger than a death-binding vow amped Mahoraga is insane, as they still favored to choose Yuji as the champion instead of that. Now, there's no way Yuji will let a 16-year-old take all this burden for humanity. It was Gojo's dying wish for this to literally not happen. Even Kusakabe told the trio to go live out their teenage life because they missed out on so much. Yuji can even help Yuka's brain tumor. After all, those that can see the contours of the soul like him can use RCT to fix it. And since the soul is the body is the soul, Yuji can heal the shape of Yuka's soul to make her tumor go away in the brain. I mean, even Sukuna figured it out when he got hit in the heart by the soul katana. Staying alive, right? Like, bro even cured literal death. So once this disaster of a situation will occur, this is Gege, so it will occur. It's not if, but when. In any scenario such as Mahoraga being defeated, or Yuka dying, or Dabura betraying his own people, Yuji will have to be the solution to create an understanding. Now, to enjoy more peak fiction, watch this video about Code Geass, where I explained Lucia's master plan that outsmarted the entire world, which made him unbeatable.